All right. Well, this is my first time having a guest in the show. Corey, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. As we talked about it, you're the first one I've had, and so if there's a lot of technical issues or if something goes horribly wrong, I appreciate you being my guinea pig.
Absolutely.
And
Let's do
for
it.
the viewers, Corey and I go way back, actually. We came up in the BDR trenches together, and we were always, I guess we were kind of big complainers in a way, in a good way. And we spent a lot of time talking shop about what we would do if we were ever in sales leadership, sort of brainstorming things that we would want to do in a better way. And that's sort of how I also got into revenue operations. And I was sort of thinking about that as I had you on as a guest was, oh, wait, this is really where it all started for me was, on the street in New York City, on lunch breaks, talking about the different things that we would do differently if we ever were in this position. And now Corey is in that seat. You're the leader of sales development at Dscout. And so I felt like a no-brainer to have you on as my first guest.
Absolutely. Super excited. Yeah. Love the full circle moment that we're having right now.
For sure. And I've always appreciated your beautiful sales mind. I always felt that you had a really strong sales philosophy and you were pretty much right about everything. And so excited to dive deep into sort of what you're building right now, what's working for you, and sort of merging RevOps and BDR.
Yeah. You want me to walk through what we're doing today, basically, at Dscout?
Yeah, we actually got a pretty packed schedule today. So just to set the stage for what we're going to go through, we're going to do a rapid fire on your favorite sales tools. We're
Okay.
going to do a overview of your ideal tech stack. You'll walk me through it. Then we'll play
Sure.
a little kill or keep game. And
Okay.
then we'll dive into some more longer forum questions. But yes, before we jump into that, I'd love for you to just go through your sales journey, what brought you to Dscout, what you're up to these days.
Yeah. I'll try and give you the skinny on it. Obviously, we started together at Handshake Corporation back in 2016.
Let's go.
Yeah. After that, I was at Jor for a minute, which I know you're familiar with. And then from there, that's when really things, I think, kind of went super sideways. I left to go to Tampa, Florida. I was at Panadoc. I kind of restarted my career as an SDR. Wasn't there for very long. Then I went to Outreach, which was kind of sort of upended by COVID. And so I needed a bridge job. I found one as a team lead over at StrataCash, focusing on digital marketing. And then, I could probably do a whole podcast on this, but I ended up finding a manager gig without having really true management experience, and that was what kicked off my journey. So I was at Hive Learning, which was more in the ed tech space. It was very niche. So kind of after a very short stint there, I knew that I needed to look at something else, and I found Dscout. And I know it's super cliche, but I think you can look at my journey and know that I'm telling you the truth, that like I join for the people, stay for the people. The mission, of course, is great, and I believe in it. But I really have inherited and then have built out a very solid team. And we have some great leaders here. And I'm coming up on my 4 years now. So started as a manager recently. Last year was promoted as a director.
Nice.
Yeah, we're killing it. That's for sure.
No, I had no doubt as soon as you sort of got into that realm of leadership that you would absolutely murder it. So I'm glad things are going well for you. I think it just takes that one opportunity, that one person to get a jump on you and a chance, and it really takes off from there. So that's great to hear. And I think that it's important that you've kind of been around the ringer a little bit when it comes to multiple different sales organizations. I think that that's what sets me apart, honestly, in revenue operations, is seeing like, hey, like it was good here, it was bad here, it was okay here. Like picking and choosing from different organizations. And if you're stuck in only one org, you don't really see the whole gambit of possibilities in a way.
Yeah, and I think that I used to be, I guess, insecure about that, and now I wear it as a badge of honor as well, because I think when you work at not just a lot of different companies, but different companies at different stages, you do see what's working and what isn't. And so to your point, when you have someone that's only worked at one company, they're sort of indoctrinated. They only know the one way of doing things. They don't know what anything else looks like. So I think that's now more of an edge up that I have as a leader than something that I think holds me back, for sure.
Totally. I think that even just for your career development and then also for your opportunities later on, right, is, being able to say, hey, I worked at SMB, mid-market, enterprise companies, just gives you a lot of flexibility. And that was also one of the reasons why I decided to join my current company, Miracle, was to give me more of that enterprise sort of experience. So I totally feel your journey, and I'm glad things are going well at Dscout. What does Dscout do exactly?
Yeah, so we are a UX research and design platform. So we cater to what you might expect, UX researchers and designers, to be able to conduct research through our platform. We also work with folks in consumer insights, digital marketers, marketing teams as a whole, product management teams, whether it's something that's tech or CPG related or hospitality or healthcare, whether it's patient experience or just the in-store experience, the app experience. We help make sure that you're capturing insights so that way you're not building features or products that your customers don't want.
I'm sold, dude.
Yeah.
I don't need it, but I'm sold.
There you go.
So let's dive into the agenda. As I mentioned, we're going to go through some fun segments. We'll clip them. We'll make YouTube reels about them. So if you're watching right now, stay tuned at least for the next few minutes before we get into the boring long form questions. We're going to start off with rapid fire. So
Okay.
we're going to go through, because this is RevOps merging with BDR stuff, we're going to go through sort of your tech stack or your ideal tech stack.
Okay.
All right, you ready? And go. Is LinkedIn Sales Navigator critical?
Yes.
Okay. Is LinkedIn InMail automation legit?
No.
No. Sorry, HeyReach. Best up-and-coming tool?
Nooks sequencer.
Okay. Most overhyped sales tool?
Clay.
I understand that one. Best sales engagement platform? Thinking SalesLoft, Outreach, Apollo, Gong, maybe ZoomInfo counts.
Yeah, outreach for sure.
Outreach, tried and true. If something goes wrong and Gmail changes their spam detection, you want to go with the tried and true platform. I agree.
Agreed.
Your company has no budget, Corey. You can only have two sales tools in your tech stack. What are they?
That's tough. I'll be honest. I've thought about how I would answer something like this, and I don't know. I would say you definitely need SalesNav and a data tool to get those contacts into the system, and I think from there you could figure out how you're going to dial them, how you're going to send emails.
I feel you, right? Like a good salesperson, you just need phone numbers.
Yeah.
So without that, you got nothing.
Yep.
Favorite CRM system? There's only one answer. That's right, Corey. So
Salesforce.
don't disappoint me. Salesforce. Thank God. I need a job, Corey. So good answer. The tool that you wished you had.
Ooh. Probably Nooks sequencer.
Okay. Nooks. We have Nooks. We enjoy it. Best contact data provider.
Cognism.
Cognism. Okay. The tool that you can't live without.
Ooh. That's a toughie. Probably in this day and age, probably Nooks Dialer.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought you said you wish you had Nooks Dialer. So do you have it?
No,
or-
they have the sequencer. I wish we had our sequencer. We have their dialer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the most important question, your March Madness tournament winner.
I am so out of college basketball. I couldn't even tell you.
Corey, you said it was okay for me to put you on the spot. You got to get to college.
I don't know. Is Duke still in it? Let's go with them.
They are. They might not be in it when this video releases, though. And so we'll have something flash across the screen about how dumb you are if that happens.
That's fine. Go for it.
All right. And, there will be on the side of the screen here, maybe it's this side, maybe it's that side, we'll have like some graphics going on where we'll have the questions and your answers. So
That's fine.
all right, so that's a good segue, I think, right? We basically went through and all those questions, sort of touched on your favorite tech stack. So segment number 2 is just summarizing everything. In an ideal world, you can have any tool that you wanted. What does the overall tech stack look like from a BDR perspective for you?
Yeah. I mean, some of this is probably going to be a bit redundant from that, but I mean, I think Nooks sequencer, just because it's kind of an all-in-one. I think, just to give you a little bit of an explanation, I think they are going to be pacing ahead of competing tools because they're not building AI on top of something that's antiquated. They are marrying AI with the first iteration of that tool. And they also, I think, have the best dialer. And so I think everything about how they created it was very intentional and allows you to consolidate. From there, I think having Cognism is going to be great. You're going to have Sales Nav. I still think that's going to be very important in perpetuity. And I honestly don't know, maybe user gems or something, some kind of orchestration tool like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why LinkedIn Sales Navigator being critical? Is it the in-mail limits? Is it the profile view limits? Is it the ability to build lists within it?
I mean, I think when you're doing like an account search and you're trying to build out an account, I'm not a big fan of just using, no matter how great a data tool is, I never recommend that someone goes into the database itself and run a search. I always recommend that you use their Chrome extension in conjunction with LinkedIn Sales Nav and you pull in contacts that way. It's just another layer of trust and truth to say, hey, I'm going to trust that this person is more accurate than a database. This person is inputting this information themselves, claiming whether or not they work there. I'm not relying on a database that has 200 million contacts that they're going to update this at the very moment somebody leaves.
I think you're totally right about that. I feel like we're moving into a place more and more where LinkedIn's getting more important in that sense, where it's like the source of truth for who's there. And then also as email becomes this weird place, if you're not sure if someone is actually a human sending it, that like LinkedIn at least feels a little bit more personalized with your picture and stuff being there. So I think
LinkedIn is also the only place now where you can guarantee deliverability of your message.
Yep.
So if I send you a LinkedIn message, like I know you're going to read it, or I know it's going to be sent to you. There is no, spam filter for that. With email and with calls, everything could be filtered out.
It's actually a perfect segue into our third segment, Corey. Kill or keep. And there may or may not be a picture of you holding a knife, killing something, or something to that effect. So just be ready for that.
Yeah, no worries.
It's also going to be a speed round. There's no standard format. Sometimes you might be having one option, and you can either kill or keep that thing, or I might give you two options, and you just need to decide which one you're killing and which one you're keeping.
That's fine.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. First one, kill or keep. You can only pick one. Email or LinkedIn in-mail.
And I'm saying which one I want to kill, which one I want to keep in this
You can
situation.
only keep one. You're killing the other one. Your team.
Yeah,
can
I'm
only
keeping
do one.
LinkedIn in-mail. I'm killing email.
He's killing email.
Yep.
Kill or keep. BDRs needing to qualify or get banned on outbound meetings.
We're going to kill that entirely.
Kill that entirely. If you get a VP of sales to say, sure, I'll take a meeting, and you don't have the chance to get any more information, I want an account executive talking to that person.
Yes.
I agree. Kill or keep, and I think you've already done this, power dialers.
We're going to keep.
Kill or keep parallel dialers.
We're going to keep.
We're going to keep. He's all about the volume, guys. Kill or keep. 200 auto emails or 20 personalized emails.
20 personalized emails.
I think it's all about personalization, which we'll talk about it later, is my pushback on parallel dialers potentially.
Fair.
Kill or keep, leaving voicemails.
Keep.
Kill or keep, local dialers.
Keep.
Kill or keep, your company's name being displayed on the caller ID.
Kill.
Kill or keep, video prospecting, aka Loom videos in LinkedIn in-mail.
Keep, but there's, some disclaimers around it.
Honestly, when I get a good one, I kind of love it. Love it.
I don't like when people are just there with their name on a board, though. If you send me a great video of your product doing something that I want it to be doing, that's incredible because I get that quick snippet, that personalized demonstration. But if you're just showing me that you're a human being with your name on a whiteboard, that's not that enticing to me personally.
I feel you. I feel you. I know. I want someone to come in and be like, "Wow, Bennett, I just watched your YouTube, RevOps Bennett, and I really value your insights." That I'm always taking a meeting for.
Sure.
Kill or keep. A portion of BDR quota tied to closed won deals.
If it's tied to it, I want to kill it. I want it to be additive.
Agreed. Why would we tie someone's quota down to something they have no control over?
Control over. Yeah. Agreed.
But if it's a spiff on top, sure, we all like money.
Yep.
Kill or keep. Prospects booking meetings directly through demo request forms, aka like a chili piper.
Yeah, I think you keep it. I think you just need. I mean, you're always going to have some garbage that slips through, but I think there's ways to mitigate that.
So I honestly, I hate it now when I request a demo request and then it's like, we'll get back to you via email. Then 5 hours later, I get an email. I want to be able to book a meeting right then and there. I also think that it opens up your team to, it's all about, for me, a lot about getting rid of excuses for BDR teams, right? And if we're doing inbound and outbound and they're spending all their time chasing inbound leads, get that excuse out of there.
Yeah, and speed to lead, which has always been important.
Totally. Well, Corey, you just crushed kill or keep.
Thank you.
Congratulations. See, I mentioned in the beginning that I agree with all of your sales philosophy, and so far I didn't have any qualms with any of your answers. And I think the only thing is parallel dialing, and I think that depends on your company, your market, and your total addressable market, really, right? If you have a few thousand people that you have to treat like gold, then I don't know, but if you have a monster addressable market, then why not go for it?
Yeah, well, I agree, and I just think it's also, and this could be, again, probably another segment in a podcast. That's how long we can talk about it. But I do think that right now, with connect rates being what they are, everyone using everyone using parallel dialers, we're all kind of competing and making it noisier, and so it's tough to say I'm going to make these 30 targeted dials with this incredibly personalized script to this individual when there's a good chance that you call 30 people and reach none of them. So you really still, in this day and age, I think, need to have some level of templated pitch for your persona, and you still need to scale that volume. I think it's a self-eating, sort of prophecy, and it's not going to end well at the end of the day. But I think that's, if you're not doing it that way, you're competing with other companies that are.
Okay, let's keep on that track then. For like email, for example, right? When we were going through the kill or keep, you sort of stressed personalization over automation in that sense. What's your philosophy on that? If you're sending a ton of email, you might not get responses either. And it's in a sequence, right? How much of your sequences are you automating percentage-wise versus having manual touches?
Yeah, so the thing is, we don't have a single sequence that's fully automated. There might be automated follow-up steps. I think what I've struggled with the most, of course, is trying to keep everyone at the organization happy. Some folks want more control over their messaging, and so they might want a manual step, but they might not be the best at actually acting upon those steps when they're due, and then there's sort of bottlenecks being created, and so we need to make sure that messaging is getting out in a timely fashion. So we try to find a happy and healthy middle ground. I think with email as a whole, I think it's an equally depreciating channel. I think it's just as much of a low conversion rate, if not lower, than the phone. And so while I don't want to spend a ton of time personalizing an email, only for it to go unread or not be delivered, to their actual inbox, I think you owe it to yourself to try to show that you've done some level of account research. And at least if you send that email, right, it's out there, it's in the ether. But I could do all of this research on a phone, before I make a phone call, and it really is for naught because I'm not even getting that connect. Maybe if I leave a voicemail, maybe, but at least with email, that message is out, that research is there, it's displayed and conveyed if that person chooses to open that message. But with a call, I can do so much upfront work and never see the fruits of that labor if I don't connect with them.
Yeah, no, totally. I try to teach a team that, hey, use that manual email where you are writing them to basically turn into your cold call pitch too. So you're writing
Yes.
that email, you're adding in that manual piece, but then put that note into Salesforce. I want you to do the research once and then
Yes.
never research again.
Recycle your efforts is what I tell my team all the time. I always say a good email is one that can be read as a script. If you can't read it as your pitch, it's not a good email.
And then, so what are you stressing with your team? Obviously, there's only so many channels you can go through, really, and the main ones being call, email, LinkedIn. Like on a daily basis, like what are you putting the most focus on?
Yeah, well, I think this is my job, right? I think my team struggles with understanding the value of each channel because they may look at how many number of opportunities were sourced by email, and it may outweigh how much we've sourced by LinkedIn, but they're not thinking about conversion rates. You know, if you're sending tens of thousands of emails, yeah, you might have more meetings sourced from that than LinkedIn. But if your conversion rates are 5x better on LinkedIn, for me, that's a signal that you should be sending more messages on LinkedIn. But they are looking at sort of that ordinal count, and they're not looking at it, from a conversion rate perspective. So what I would say is I'm constantly telling my team, especially with dialers, like calling people has never been less painful. I know it's always going to be inherently painful to some extent, but we grew up in a much more manual day and age. So I have very few tears for reps that don't really want to call when you can kind of knock out 200 dials in like an hour, maybe more if nobody answers. So I would say that I'm asking my team to diversify. I'm definitely asking them to build relationships and be slightly more informal through LinkedIn because it's inherently a more informal channel. And to really just not have some sort of like strong call to action, but really just be genuinely curious, showcase that you're human in the way that you communicate,
Yeah.
and just try and get some answers to some questions. Understand what they're actually like focused on before you start pitching.
Yeah, totally. I think that human element, especially in the age of AI, is so important. I
Yep.
see a world where, we're going, actually you go backwards almost, right? Where we're going back to like the sales of the 90s and you're going to a lot of trade shows and that's where you can only trust people almost at this point.
Oh yeah,
Um,
we've put such a massive emphasis on sites and like happy hours and dinners and I mean our vendors have done the same to me. So I mean I think we are moving to that world. I would agree.
and then you're a remote team, right?
Yeah.
How is that? Because I think that, as a BDR team, a lot of times you're, junior level employees. It's a lot of teaching, right? And like, hey, how can we get these people to become major contributors in not just the BDR role, but get them to account executives? And I think that, when me and you were sitting in New York at Handshake, sitting next to Dan, right? And he'd lean over and be like, Ben, that call stunk. Like, do this better. It was a big learning experience for me, and I think that you can kind of miss out on that. So I'm interested in how you're handling that from your side of things.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're doing call reviews and email reviews. We do them on a biweekly cadence, but it works out so that each week we're doing one or the other. We try to look at quote unquote a good call and quote unquote a bad call. I always tell my team there's no such thing really as a bad call, but one that obviously has an opportunity for improvement. And I think that I've been in the belly of the beast with them. I'll make dials for them. So I think if you're leading from the front and you're making dials and you're showing that you're human too and you can mess up and not necessarily book a meeting or have somebody get really upset that you called them and you just are able to let it roll off your back, like that helps motivate people because you're proving to them that you're willing to do what you're asking them to do. So
Yeah.
I think that's the best way for us to do it. I don't have as much time as I would like to be kind of in that digital sales floor with them. And I don't think that it's perfect either to be able to say like I'm going to, sort of intercede in the middle of that call or, I might be able to pull them after and give them feedback. But of course it's not the same as being, next to somebody in an office. So I try to balance it and I think there's no way I'm ever going to be able to build the same type of culture that it would exist in office as I do remote.
Yeah.
But we still do the same activities and we still make sure that we're reviewing what we can do to improve.
I think that remote has a benefit in the sense that like output really matters, right? And like ultimately, like there's no office heroes anymore in a way. It's how many calls did you book, and that's yeah. There's nowhere to hide in a remote work in a work environment. I think in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a meritocracy now than ever before. There's no true office politics in a remote setting, But I think
Yeah.
also, while there isn't necessarily a place to hide, I think it's nice that my team doesn't, even though they know every call is going to be recorded, even though they know we're going to be reviewing things, we review them based on their submissions. There's nothing punitive about this. I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm not trying to, put you in this agonizing, role play experience with me where I'm going to throw a bunch of questions at you that a prospect would never ask and try and put you down. The whole thing is about building you up. And I think, they're able to do this on their own time, in their own environment, in their own space, and they don't have to worry about me necessarily watching them like a hawk. I'm looking at the numbers, I'm looking at the inputs, and I will coach them. But I think a lot of the anxiety that we had as reps, and I'm not lumping you into this necessarily, but SDRs as a whole, when you're in office, everybody can hear you. And that was
Yes, dude.
that was the worst part of that experience, is that you
Yes.
didn't love that everyone was listening to your call because you couldn't guarantee that it was going to be a busy sales floor when you got to connect with somebody, and that it was going to be drowned out by the sounds of everybody else making dials. But with this, like they
It
have that
hits so
comfort.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hits so home with me. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, you're
that
good.
just spoke to me because I remember days being like, "Oh my God!" Like I just blew that call, and everyone heard it, and so I think that what you're saying about lifting people's like confidence up, it's everything, when it comes to your ability on a cold call. And yeah, that's for me, at least from my experience, I always felt that pressure, and so it's something that I love when I hear BDR leaders are sort of focused on that.
For sure.
Another question for you is around more of like your organization, right? Like, how many accounts are each BDR going after in a given time? How are you refreshing those accounts? How are you balancing making sure that accounts get enough touches while also attacking your total addressable market in an aggressive way?
Yeah. I think I kind of have it down to a science. I'm sure that there's going to be some variance to it, by company, by industry, whether, you're all enterprise, like by segmentation. I would say right now we have, and I kind of learned this from my time at Outreach. I've figured out, I think, what a rep's bandwidth is generally today. And I would say, irrespective of any other sort of productivity hacks that come about in the future, um, it's right around 200, what we would call like high touch accounts. And that is what somebody can basically work. And that's where, you're going to have a large degree, probably 3x as many like low touch accounts that are like, they might be a good fit. They don't really have that many qualified people at the account. Maybe that's a scenario where you put them in some sort of fully automated sequence and it's just kind of a set and forget type of model. But as far as like being able to prospect into, build out the account, have either persona specific or company and account specific messaging or industry specific messaging, partner with maybe your account executive on. I really think 200 is basically the number for you to hit your goal on a monthly or quarterly basis in perpetuity.
Totally understand. But it's hard though, right? With executive teams, I think, demanding also like, why is this account not being touched, right? But you have to, be able to slow down and really squeeze the juice out of everything. So it's
Yeah,
definitely,
but you don't want to create bottlenecks and you don't want to fully automate things to the point where you're just sending
yep,
noise and actually destroying your TAM or your domain and deliverability in the process.
so
Um,
important.
but you also want to make sure that they have a good enough book to hit goal each rep. And
Yep.
so, there are definitely some accounts that we're going to nurture, but most of what is really kind of in our recycle bin is like our low touch accounts that we're not
Yep.
really tracking regardless of their ICP sort of marker. if there's not enough good people to reach out to, and basically one no could shut the door on us, it's so not worth pursuing long term. It just isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And then you also mentioned sort of the BDR AE relationship a little bit. In a perfect world, what is your sales team structure when it comes to, I think, first be on the BDR side, inbound versus outbound, right? Do you have those being broken out by separate things? Do you have like senior BDRs versus junior BDRs? And then how many BDRs to account executives would you ideally like to see?
Yeah. So right now we run an all bound. We have our SDRs are all bound, so they just do both inbound and outbound. I think that's just easier. I've been actually going to a bunch of like SDR leadership conferences, and there's been a lot of talk about breaking the sort of narrative that you have to start at inbound and then the rite of passage is outbound, and that it actually could be sort of the opposite to some people. You know, cut your teeth on the outbound and sort of be rewarded with working inbound, I guess. We don't do really senior or junior right now, only just because I think our team doesn't warrant, the size of our team doesn't warrant it. Truly, like if you're working in our mid-market segment, your goal is going to just be different based on how many meetings we're expecting you to book in that segment. And so I'm not really, it's just a different type of work. I don't think that it's this so radically different in terms of skill or difficulty. It's just a different type of work. One might be a little bit more transactional. One might be a little bit more inbound heavy. But I mean, you still have a goal. That goal is commensurate with kind of how easy, if you will, or how inbound driven it is. So I've kind of done away with that, especially when it comes to like salary ranges. Like I want to as much as I can pay them. You know, that's really what I want to do. And then to your last question, I hate this answer, but I think any good leader will tell you that this answer exists in a lot of places. The answer is it depends. As far as ratios. Like, for example, we have a 2-to-1 ratio, two SDRs, two AEs per SDR on the enterprise side, but it's closer to 4-to-1 on the mid-market side. And so, I mean, I think it really depends also on the splits, right? It depends on if your company is expecting a certain amount of pipe gen from your account executives, or if they're expecting pure specialization. I mean, like SDRs are going to close, SDRs are going to open up ops, AEs are going to close, and that's that. I think if I was just starting at a company, I would basically, I want to drown my AEs in meetings before I add more AE headcount. And so I'll figure out what that ratio is on the fly, to be honest with you. I don't think having a set figure in mind makes sense. I don't think it's diagnostic if you do it that way. I think you should respond to what the meeting numbers are telling you and what the demand is and how busy AEs are, really.
Yep. No, I totally agree with your philosophy on things. I've always thought, hey, if you have an incredible account executive, why not fill their books completely up? And if it's not filled completely up, then there's no need to hire a new one because you have a great one that has time on their calendar.
Right.
So for me, it's like get a rock star BDR in there. And the reality is that sales is hard, I think, right? And the BDR job is hard, and it takes someone with certain grit and career aspiration to cold call 200 people a day. And an AE is just not putting that in.
No, generally isn't.
That's why we have the BDR.
That's okay. That's also okay if that's the world that we want to live in, right? Like if they have extra time on their calendar, you have two choices. Do I assign this AE to begin prospecting more and own some of their pipeline because they have the bandwidth? Or do I need to bring on another SDR? Or do I need to upskill my current SDRs, right? Until we get to a place where that AE or multiple AEs calendars are packed to the brim.
Totally. And then in terms of upscaling your BDRs is, a major focus for you as someone who's sort of, saw the BDR to AE sort of side of things, getting BDRs to make that jump. How long are you looking to sort of have that transition last? Like, I don't know if that's sort of something that you guys are using as, I've always seen like, hey, if I can, how many BDRs I get to account executives also being a reflection of how good a BDR team is in a way.
They're two different skill sets. They really are. I mean, I do think a
Okay.
great BDR can make a great AE, but not always. And sort of vice versa, right? And I think that there is overlap there. I also think it doesn't always have to be the natural path for an STR because, as we've stated, they are going to be the greenest people with basically the least amount of professional experience. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know if this is what they want the rest of their career to look like to just continue that sales track. And I don't think it's wise to push them towards a track that they may not be super clear that they want, or push them to where they're really not going to be successful there. So, I mean, I push for using the SDR role as a launch pad, as they say, to other lateral roles. They could still be customer facing, but it doesn't have to be the traditional AE track. I also think that companies will see more success, and this is going to be a callback to Handshake, but I think that companies will see more success with moving SDRs to AEs if they have an SMB segment. Because that is really where you should cut your teeth as an AE. Like when you're just getting started out, there's a couple of things that you want to make sure you don't mess up as a company. You don't want to take an inexperienced AE and throw them, to the wolves on big deals that are the difference between, keeping the lights on or not. You want them to cut their teeth in very high velocity deals where there's a lot of demand, a lot of inbound demand. Let them get on, hundreds of calls, fail hundreds of times, learn all the things, have them throw them and they'll make all the mistakes they need to make. And that's where they should make those mistakes. Not when there's an 80,000 deal on the line, but when it's some 1,500 deal on the line. And then another thing is when you're dealing with SMB prospects or SMB customers, they're the most difficult. They want to spend the least amount of money. They have the most questions. They're going to have the most questions about the product. They're going to be, it's going to absolutely be taxing from like a negotiating perspective. That's fine. That's what you want. Like, it's like baseball. When you're on deck, you're swinging with two bats. So that way, when you get to the plate and you drop a bat, it's that much lighter. It's the same thing. Like, let them deal with the most challenging prospects. So that way, everything else is much easier, in my view, after that.
Totally, right? Like closing one deal a year versus 30, right? Your at-bats are, yeah. No, it's totally, I totally see that. Kind of pivoting a little bit since this is a RevOps podcast, I want to dive into a little bit of your experience with RevOps, both from an individual contributor standpoint and as a sales leader. What has your experience been? And it's okay to have a negative one. I had a negative one. That's why I got into RevOps. But love to sort of hear how you connect or how you're using RevOps today, and what are some of the good things you're seeing and some of the things that you think that RevOps can work on.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you brought me on so that, you get a completely unfiltered opinion. So, prepare for that. You don't need to give me the disclaimers. I would say as an IC, it was very contentious. But I don't fault them. And I think that now as a leader, it is definitely more collaborative, and I'm definitely more sympathetic or empathetic. I see what they see a little bit more, at least, and I understand why they do the things that they do. I would say a good example of that is when I was working at Stratacache, much larger company, and I do believe at larger companies you need to have more. RevOps needs to have more control. And reps need to have less control because there's just too many bad actors. And so, but of course, that feels punitive and feels like you're penalizing the people that, like, I'm just trying to change this account into my name because my manager told me, hey, this is your account. But now I have to submit a ticket, which might mean that I got to wait like a business day or two for just like a very minute change. And it creates that friction because as a sales rep, I don't want to worry about that. I want to just be able to action on that account immediately. And so as an IC not thinking about the other side of it, naturally I'm very frustrated. But now, as a leader and as someone who now partners with RevOps, I get it. I think, I mean, we have some really great people. Aparna. She was our RevOps leader for some time, and she did some great work. She actually just left, but we still have some amazing folks in the RevOps team. I would say some of the work, there's a lot of work, to be fair. We've changed a lot of things probably since middle of last year. They've handled all of those changes in stride. They've been really thoughtful partners about this. We're in the middle of changing our sales engagement platform. We're in the middle of changing a bunch of things, and they're at my beck and call. I mean, if I need custom things built, they're there to build it. They really do treat me like a customer, and I think that that's what a good RevOps team should do. I treat my team like they're my customers. And so I think when you're talking about internal stakeholders, there's always someone that is your customer. And so I think the best RevOps teams are the ones that realize that other whether it's ICs or leaders, that's the people they're catering to.
Mm-hmm. Is there any particular sort of piece of revenue operations that you think is particularly helpful for you? Like, do you want to lean on RevOps for data hygiene? Right, I think there's a big push. You mentioned Clay being overhyped, but a big push for RevOps owning more of like the contact and enrichment, where hopefully a large proportion of the CRM is pretty good to go, and you're updating a few contacts here and there. Do you see RevOps as being a partner in training on sales tools? Do you see us as a partner in data and in the analytics side of things? I guess if you had to sort of pick one sort of piece of RevOps that actually is benefiting the BDR team today, like what piece of that do you think is most impactful?
Yeah, I would say the analytics. I think one of the key things that Aparna and her team were doing, and we now have kind of etched in stone, is really our close loss analysis. So being able to take the reports and kind of make sense of it. I'd like to think that I have a pretty decent competency in Salesforce in generating reports. I'm not sure that all ICs are able to do that, or even all sales leaders, not specifically at Dscout, but anywhere, are necessarily carrying that competency. And so I think in some ways you could argue that RevOps is going to be valuable because they're able to generate reports and dashboards and things like that for you, and it's all just right there ready to go for the leader to speak to at a leadership meeting. But I think the analysis is what makes or breaks, what really makes them impactful. And some of that work overlaps the work with our BI team. So I got to shout them out because that's a lot of work that they're doing in like Snowflake and all other tools that I'll never, ever step foot inside of. But I would say that making sense, qualitative sense of just numbers is what's impactful to us.
Okay. And then I guess, is there anything that you wish in your career RevOps had done better for you?
I think it would be nice. You kind of touched on this. I think it would be nice if there was, and this might be an antiquated opinion, because as we move more towards AI and more towards automation, maybe these skills aren't necessary anymore. But I think if everyone at the company shared a foundational competency within our CRM and within all sales tools, really, even the ones that they don't necessarily use every day, but just so they can understand the who, what, where, when, why, I think that would be valuable. Even if they're not making those manual edits, but they know why something is changing. They know where to look for something. They know they can be contributors, thoughtful contributors to the conversation about what it is that they need because they know how it all works. That would be helpful. And so I would like to see, I think, RevOps really take that more on, of saying, we're going to train you on Salesforce. At least give you the foundational basics, especially our instance, what all these custom fields are, what ties into what, even though at a certain point automation is going to maybe say, hey, like, you never need to fill this field in. But like, you should know it exists. You should know how to run a report based on that and how to find those fields.
I love that, because that's honestly what I pride myself on, or try to focus the most on, is how do I enable BDRs to execute on their strategies, right? Like, I have this idea. I want to target this segment and I want to focus in on this persona. with this relationship to our company where they've had a previous lost opportunity in not 6 months ago, but maybe within the last 2 years. I want to make sure they have a mobile number. I only want to call people with mobile numbers in Nooks. And how do I create that list view in Salesforce and get that into Nooks? I think that empowering a BDR to do it. I mean, me and you, right? We would always be like, okay, like this is what we want to do. This is the segment we want to go after. And if you take that away from a BDR and they're just like sort of just you're feeding BDR's lists and they don't have that sort of ability to come up with strategy and use list views and reporting, then it gets a little mundane.
Yeah, and I also think it contributes to brain drain at the end of the day. You know, I think that there's so much push to AI and automation and stuff, and at a certain point, I'm obviously asking myself, like, whether it's BDRs or AEs, like, okay, but when do we do our job? You know, like I'm cool with like removing administrative burden, and I'm cool with a lot of stuff being automated, but at a certain point, when are we tilting the scale too far where we're taking away all critical thinking and we're saying, all right, we're recommending this person to this flow and this to this, and you should just do this. I don't want to move to that world too quickly, if I'm being honest, and possibly ever.
Totally. Like we're enterprise, and there's a value to manually doing something sometimes, right? If you're call recording through Gong and populating every field in Salesforce, well, you lose a little bit of your responsibility towards that deal and having to think about, okay, like what are the reasons this person is purchasing and sort of articulating that in Salesforce. So I totally feel you there. And in that sort of mind frame, what's your experience, or do you have any experience with AI writing emails for you? Have you thought about that at all? Have you tested any tools? Where do you see the trajectory of that?
Yeah, I mean, we go as far back as, 3 years ago, I was evaluating, I think, between Reggie AI and Lavender. We ended up going with Reggie AI, but then we ended up churning. Then, of course, I think really ChatGPT like kind of really hit the mainstream there. Now there's, email assist living in Outreach, email assist living in Gong, Engage. It's kind of everywhere. We're using Gemini right now, where I'm sure there's going to be a push for Claude and all that. I'm a bit torn on it. I think eventually everyone's going to realize like everyone kind of sounds the same. I mean, I think as you kind of saw in my earlier conversation, like I'm bearish on email as a whole, as a channel. So, we could go down this road, but I'm trying to pivot away from email as much as humanly possible, except for like really, really targeted, really relevant emails to folks where we actually have some sort of history, where I know that email is going to be delivered. I feel like that email is going to be responded to. But when I'm thinking about something purely cold, email isn't going to be my first port of call more often than not. I feel responsible to provide content for my team. And in that way, we're going to be using some of the stuff we've built internally within Gemini. But I think for me, that's kind of where it begins and where it ends. And maybe you can use some stuff within Email AI Assist. I know Gong has a pretty cool feature for AEs, like right in their Conversations tab. You can do like a complete AI email follow-up that's going to, analyze basically the transcript that you had of that discovery call and basically be able to put out a very rich, personalized, relevant, accurate email. That saves time, and I think that's great. But I think there's just those one-off use cases where it's awesome, but at scale, I don't know. I don't think it moves the needle for that channel coming back.
I think we're still far off from at least cold calling becoming AI. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Probably wrong. It could be a few, but it seems like for you, cold calling isn't dead. That's still your go-to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's dead. I don't think anything about it actually has changed. I think people, when I see stuff on LinkedIn, I always have to think about what are they selling when they're making these very having these extreme takes and saying this is dead or this is dead. Like, what is their actual angle there? Are they selling something that is kind of in relation to what it is they're saying is dead. But I think also, like, in 2015, I made 400 manual dials a day at an SDR agency in order to book one meeting. And it was in part because I was calling off of a complete, garbage list, but also because the nature of sales, even at that time, even when people were working in front of a desk and I was calling strictly desk phones, it was always a numbers game. And I think we think of things being a numbers game as like a dirty word or a dirty phrase in sales because it gives the impression of you're spraying and praying. Well, the other extreme is making one call and sending one email and sending one LinkedIn message a day. Is that person going to hit goal? No. So the idea that like calling has changed with 7% connect rates, that's not any different than the way it used to be. And booking a meeting a day off of that is still fantastic in 2015 and in 2026. I don't care what segment you're in. So I don't think anything is inherently changed with calling.
Totally agree. I think that even if pickup rates have dropped, let's say by 50%, sorry, that just means you got to call twice as many people now. There's only so many channels.
Right. And now you have a dialer to help support that. So I mean, there's constant, this thing has happened, now this tool is released. This thing has happened, another tool is there to combat it. Like, there's just always going to be something there, I think, to help us cut through the noise. But I mean, it is hard to predict the future of sales. I think it's hard to predict what it's all going to look like at the end of the day. I think sequencers definitely made email kind of what it is, even though I love them. I think auto dialing and parallel dialing might make phones slightly more challenging. I know Apple is making it harder and harder, Google on the email side and Microsoft on the email side making it harder and harder. I mean, I would say that's why I emphasize Sales Nav and LinkedIn as much as I do. I think that's the channel of the future. In addition to all the the on-sites and conferences and things like that.
Well, Corey, I couldn't agree more about basically every answer you gave. So I picked the right person to come on to my first podcast. I really appreciate having you on. I know we're coming up on the hour mark now, and I'm sure most people have dropped off the video. So it's time for us to wrap it up. But so appreciative of you coming on and doing this for me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you having me. I had a lot of fun, and hope we get to do it again soon.
All right. Thank you again.
You got it. Talk to you.